Get comfy. Right, okay.
Rolling. So what's this about?
Are we rolling?
Rolling.
So.
Colin Leap to Bell to Summerbee to Leo. Football perfection.
It's a celebration of the team.
When they played, they were all true Manchester City players.
Beautiful ball for Bell. Here it is.
It's a celebration of Manchester City's past.
The three of them always epitomise that era.
It is a celebration of success.
Summerbee back to Young. He made the goal that made the cup possible.
When I speak to people about them, you understand straight away how important they are for this club.
For me, they meant a lot. They're key icons.
Absolutely three legends of the football club.
If the fans feel rewarded by that, and it gives them a sense of history and feeling, I've achieved what I'm aiming for.
It's okay, it is really overwhelming. It's a really moving thing to see.
Do you think it's a good likeness to?
I think it's better than what I am.
Well, to have a statue before, you never think in lifetime, it's an amazing thing what the club have done.
This is about capturing something that is the spirit of Manchester City Football Club.
Without the great players, you cannot go forward without having that base of what happened in the past.
Lee, his hat-trick.
You've just lost one of the nicest people.
Over the last few weeks, I think we've been reminded of what a legend he was.
We should never forget the past.
I don't think Bell, Lee and Summerbee will ever be forgotten.
These statues are an inspiration for generations to come.
To continue that as a tradition is really important. To make that a part of the DNA of a club.
For our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, it's there forever. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, I think if you ask any City fan, true fan, they know very well the importance and significance of Colin, Francis and Mike to the club, to the history of the club, to the legacy that they've left.
Got Bell on his right. Bell coming in now. Beautiful goal. Bell restarting with a free kick. Bell and into Lee's path. That's a beauty. And he's there again and lost it. Summerbee. Lee, plenty of men forward for City as Lee shoots. Here's Bell.
When I speak to people about them, they say how special they was for the club, and yeah, it's nice to speak to people that's big supporters of them, and you understand straight away how important they are for this club and what they mean to them.
Oh, and here's Bell with a chance. Colin Bell, and he scored. Colin Bell. Bell, this masterful all-rounder.
He trying to tee himself up. Good save by Cosco. Young, made by Francis Lee without a doubt.
We won the Second Division Championship, the First Division Championship, the FA Cup, European Cup Winners' Cup, 2 League Cups, 3 Charity Shields. So we didn't do too bad in that particular time.
Fabulous players, fabulous people. When they played, they were all true Manchester City players.
Summerbee again. And Bell has got it. Beautiful goal. A perfect example. How to leap into the air.
For me, they meant a lot. Definitely players who meant a lot for the club.
Absolutely three legends of the football club.
The three of them always epitomise that era. The three of them always on the same page.
1,300 games combined between them, 80 caps for England combined, and of course almost 368 goals that they've contributed to the club in a period of time that was, I think, a great era.
Scored by Young, made by Summerbee. That's what they waited for, and they know.
I'm David Williams-Ellis. Describing myself as an artist is probably the most difficult thing. I'm passionate about what I do. I like the human figure. I want to be able to give something to other people to enjoy.
Well, David's very meticulous. He likes to capture the essence of each of the portraits that he sculpts. Without doubt, the greatest British sculptor working in portraiture, but working in portraiture ways capturing the energy of movement. It's a very complex thing to do.
I mean, every stage in my life, there are pieces that particularly stand out. More recently, the Normandy sculpture, it was so emotionally involving that and was such a big project. What excited me about this project was the fact that it's these iconic figures, which I grew up with. A lot of my work has had quite a sporting feel to it. There's a lot of movement in it, and I think I hopefully try and capture the essence of people. So all in all, those things put together made it an exciting project.
There is a great sculpture by him of Gravel, the great Welsh rugby player, which is outside the National Stadium. But this is a slightly different and rather unique work where you've got three figures combined, playing the sport together and representing Manchester City Football Club at its very, very best.
And here we are, just unwrap it. Got three figures: Colin Bell, Francis Lee, and Mike Summerbee. This is what they call a maquette. So it's like the model for the big one. It's taken me probably about 2 months to work on this, to get this right, and probably another 2 or 3 months to get the design right. These are three examples, but hopefully they capture a bigger picture of the essence of a footballer in the 1960s, 1970s. Good sculpture and good painting should live. It should last the test of time. In 20, 30, 50 years' time, it should still have the essence of a good sculpture. So if I can do that, I've achieved what I'm aiming for.
Right, okay, so we'll start off fairly easily. Could you give me one word to describe yourself as a player?
Not bad.
Fell for Summerbee. Left foot, and in! Summerbee! And notice the persistence of number 7, Summerbee.
What can you say about Mike?
How shall I put it? He was competitive.
Effervescent, full of fun, full of, you know, mischief.
I mean, it brings a smile to my face straight away because it's just the buzzer, innit?
How skillful and technical he was as a player, kind of ahead of his game.
Ricochet to Summerbee, and a deflection in!
On the wing that we all sort of remember him most, and he'd be flying down that wing, really exciting. He was also quite a cheeky sort of player.
He was the first winger really that I saw who had the ability to keep the ball at his feet. His trickery was amazing.
Mike is one of the best players with his back to the game and can turn. This is the most difficult thing, especially in modern football where they're coming in hard and they're tackling through you. I think you'll see Mike Summerbee's best at Wembley.
One word. Emotional, tidy.
Summerbee was one of the best crossers of a ball that you'd ever see.
Davis across with England. Hit the post and waiting.
One word I can't think. Well, a nice man.
And there it is, the most exciting team in England today, and a man who's made a great difference to the number 7, Francis Lee.
Francis Lee was like, think about Carlos Tellez a few years back. Francis Lee was better than that.
And the great attributes of Lee, when everyone expects a centre, he could unleash a fierce shot.
He's always been a very strong personality and a great believer in his ability to play football.
I think the element of always wanted to be the best at something and always wanted to prove someone wrong about something. I think he was just so competitive and also so driven.
You know, he'd plough through the mud, low centre of gravity.
You would never ever put Francis down.
I wanted to be on the day, I wanted to make sure that everybody remembered me playing that day, because it was important.
And did very well there. Lee, his hat-trick!
We have some top goal scorers that we've had at the club, past and present, and he's definitely up there for one of the top strikers. So yeah, top player.
Bursts of speed seems to suit him better. And his secret is this acceleration that he's got, and he explodes into these situations.
I think if you parachuted your dad into current Premier League, how would that go?
I think he might get a few red cards.
And it doesn't worry him in the least.
Boys and girls, Colin Bell.
Bell moving up very strongly on the right, and Bell's got a chance now. 2-0.
Colin Bell became by far the greatest player Manchester City had ever had.
Lee, beautiful ball from Bell. Here it is. And this time stopped by Webb, but there's Young, the elegant player, lurking on the far side. Into to Bell. Oh, Bell has done it again. Bell was in there.
One word to describe Colin. He was a proud man, born to be a footballer.
He could score from 6 yards, he could score from 20 yards, headers, volleys.
He just had a natural ability. He's very much like Kevin De Bruyne's very much like him. Two great players.
All my cars have been called Colin Bell because they blew and they go like a rocket.
Red shirts are bobbing around there. Bell! A goal! Colin Bell!
He's got fantastic energy and stamina. He's going to be the best player the city's had since Peter Doherty.
He was a phenomenal athlete. He should have been an Olympic runner.
I think he's one in a million to an extent. This fantastic lung power he has. He does seem to be spoiling things a bit for us strikers in being a midfield player and getting more than the strikers are.
Colin Bell became a hero. He was everything. The king, no bigger.
And it's in! A mistake by Stepney and a goal by Bell.
For sure, the modern era has been an era that we're all enjoying. As you know, we've developed statues of Sergio Aguero, David Silva, and Vincent Kompany. But it was always in the back of my mind, we should never forget the past.
Manchester City didn't happen when the Etihad evolved into the Etihad. It came from before that. But without the great players of the era of Summerbee, Bell and Franny, you cannot go forward without having that base of what happened in the past.
How do we recognize Colin, Francis, and Mike, who played an unbelievable part of the history of this club?
The club are doing a magnificent thing in this statue.
So when we first started working with David, we made sure that he had all of the imagery that we had available to us to give a sense of their characters and their personalities in a way.
The research I did was I watched a lot of very, very pixelated black and white films from the 1970s and a lot of not so good photographs from the 70s to see their highlights and their moments. And you could see all of those traits coming through.
One of the things that we did notice was that the photographs very rarely showed in enough detail the players in action. It brings some of the challenges that David must have had when approaching how to capture the likeness of the players in movement.
So when I'm working, I have masses of photographs, and Manchester City, the club, have sent me lots of photographs. I've done a lot of research on the internet. I need profiles, side views, front views, different characteristics of the different players, the way they move. So the detail on this is not necessarily perfect. What I've tried to do is to get it grouping as a sculpture, get the figures to work, capture the essence of their play. If we start with Francis, every picture I've seen of him, every bit of video, is of him really bustling, fighting his way through. Absolutely hard. His chest is forward, his arms are out, and there's as though there's nothing going to stop him.
Bell, and into Lee's path, that's a beauty!
With Colin, it's as though you've suspended him under his arms, and his body is like a dancer, is floating all round the place. And you get this wonderful sort of off balance with the arms out, and you can feel as though he's almost running along a tightrope. With Mike, I wanted to capture a feeling that he was coming up against somebody and you didn't quite know which way he was going to go. So he's almost tricking you to go one way or the other. And so I wanted this off balance, but a twist back.
The Summerbee, memory goal! A lovely goal by Summerbee! Summerbee!
If I'd had 3 action figures working together, it would have been too complicated. So there's a compromise to be found amongst it all to capture what will be a good sculpture and capture the essence of each player. What I didn't want to do is something gimmicky and kitsch. They needed to work sculpturally, and they needed to work as a whole, and not as just 3 individuals, and yet they needed to be 3 individuals to show their characteristics.
He's trying to capture the essence of the people, rather than just the verisimilitude of the sculpture. And when the fans see this sculpture, they will immediately recognise the players. But it's so much more than that, this piece. This is much more about capturing something that is the spirit of Manchester City Football Club.
It was asked earlier of me whether the figure of Colin was actually about to kick the ball. I want to leave that for the viewer to make up their own mind. I want them to be asking that question, because that's what makes a sculpture or a painting or whatever it is, a piece of art, really interesting, is you're constantly asking questions. Meeting the families was very important and very nice. I got across from Francis his enthusiasm, his strength of dynamism, and I got across from Colin's family that sort of slightly introspective feel that he gave. From actually meeting Mike, I got across that sort of determined, slightly humorous side. The character shone through.
City were by far, going back, the biggest Manchester club. City's history was huge. But the problem was, City didn't quite manage to build on what they'd had in the 50s. The club sort of fell apart a little bit. When Joe Mercer and Mercer-Allison arrived at City, this sleeping giant, it needed total resuscitation.
Joe ran the club from a managerial point of view, but the coaching side of it was done by Mercer-Allison, who was like the Pep Guardiola of his era.
Tony, try and make more distance on your nose. Yeah. When you're there, make distance on your right.
The 2 of them worked superbly for City. Within weeks, the mood started to change. Things started to be positive. Gradually, one by one, we started bringing in the great players, but not just that. They started to transform the squad.
They were in the 2nd division when I left Swindon Town, and Manchester City came in for me, and I had no hesitation whatsoever in coming and signing for Manchester City.
When he signed, I think it was exciting for City fans, but again, you're right at the start of this journey. You don't know how it's going to turn out.
I just walked in the room there, Joe Mercer was there, and he said, right, we're in the 2nd division, we're skint, we've got no money. And so he offered me 25 quid a week, so I said, that'll do. And I signed for that, simple as that. Best decision I ever made. Apart from being married.
Now Mike Summerbee arrives, and there's a lot of hype and a lot of positivity, and Mike Summerbee started to deliver, I'd say straight away.
Too young, now Summerbee, sticking to a spot on the wing.
he was Mike. You know, it sounds really crazy saying this, but we know what Mike Summerbee is like today. Well, Mike Summerbee was like back then. It just worked.
Good header by Doyle!
When you saw him, what he used to hand out and dish out to the great fullbacks of those times, he gave as much as he got.
Slowed it down a bit, Summerbee to speed it up again. To Summerbee, memory goal! A lovely goal by Summerbee!
Colin Bell, City had been watching for some time. When Mercer-Allison went to watch Colin Bell before City actually signed him, and there were other scouts or other managers from you know, leading clubs of the period, and Mercer-Allison knew that City could not really afford much. There's still issues with finance and so on. And so he sat there, and for the entire 90 minutes, he's going, oh, that guy, well, I've wasted my time coming here, that guy's rubbish.
I used to call him everything, because we didn't have the money, so we didn't have enough money to buy him.
And he did that really to put everybody else off. And it sort of worked.
And I said to Joe, we'll have to go and sign this boy. I said, we'll have to sign him.
Anyway, Malcolm's a good talker. So I signed him, against my better judgment. But what a player he turned out to be.
The second division title winning season, I mean, City were going for it from the start, and Colin Bell arrived, and he contributed straight away. But one of the key things, I suppose, that he got remembered for, we went to Rotherham, where Colin Bell scored the goal that got City promoted. That immediately cemented Colin Bell as this legendary sort of figure.
Getting over the line and winning the second division championship again gave them the confidence and the belief. And the great thing is they did it with style.
Something special was happening at City. It was a team that had ambition, a team that was going somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's a good shot. That's the goal.
Francis Lee was at Bolton, but he'd fallen out with management at Bolton, and he more or less went on strike.
In his true sort of way, threatened to quit football.
And then one day, Joe Mercer phoned him up and said, how about coming to join us?
I said, yeah, and you come to Manchester City and I'll make you a great player. And then when I went out, he said, well, big headed, so he said.
He signed October '67, and Joe Mercer always called him the sort of final piece of the jigsaw. Immediately, he contributed.
Lee.
When you've got a player like him in the side, then you know you can't miss out on anything really, and we didn't at the time.
Franny Lee brought goals, a bit more of an aggression, if you like, and that excitement.
And then that's where I think things really sort of went into a different stratosphere, really.
Hi, Marie. How are you? I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, so we've been very involved since the outset of the decision to commission the statue. Khaldoon wrote to us when Dad died to inform us that the club were gonna do this and that he would be overseeing the project, and we've been engaged all the time.
So, what we're going to show you today is some video footage that we filmed with the sculptor David Williams-Ellis, and we've completed the maquette stage, which is the mini version of the statue.
I think it was about, you know how time goes, 2 or 3 years ago, and I can remember it being talked about, and you thought, really? Statue? And I'm not sure if Mike took it in straight away.
This maquette is very much around how the 3 players are going to work together on the plinth.
And it's not a kind of coming together of 3 players in the same moment. It's different moments captured as you were known, and hopefully as you'll appreciate.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I'm not sure how I would choose to capture the 3 of them together.
How you would choose.
I'm not sure how you position them, or it'd be intriguing.
Okay, so we'll play you the video and then we can talk it through at the end.
floating all around the place, and you get this wonderful feel as though he's almost
Got you, Mike.
With Mike, what's very really interesting is you're constantly asking questions.
There's going to be a lot of movement in it, isn't there? You know, it's going to look really impressive. And
so sculpture should work from every angle. You should get as good a view and as exciting a view from the back as you should from the front. Would you like us to start? If you imagine that the height we're going to be looking at is going to be looking at it back down here. So if the position is as we possibly...
That first time when you saw what we were working towards was very emotional. Just to see the way the players were positioned and the thought that has gone into it. I've not really seen a sports statue like that before.
Very clever, isn't he?
Yeah. He talks it through well, doesn't he, in terms of what he's tried to achieve and approach it.
And you can immediately see who it is, can't you?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to have...
By the movement and the stature and the... Yeah.
Definitely, you would know immediately.
It's very good.
God, I didn't know how it was going to be.
It is emotional.
Ah.
Yeah.
Dad would have been very proud to
very.
know the statue.
Extremely. Well, I mean, that was sort of one of the proudest moments when the stand was named after him.
Yeah, it's amazing how he can capture it.
Yeah.
You can tell with it straight away.
Yeah, you can.
He must have been good with prosthesis when he was young.
So he'll now be building these at 1.5 size. So it's going to be a while now, about 5 months, before the next sort of real milestone.
Have you done that, Danny?
Back to the office.
No, let your hair down, you're all right. You want a cigar and a glass of champagne?
Brilliant.
Lovely.
Okay,
Great.
thank you so much.
You.
That's great. You okay?
The thing is, when you came to see me that day, it was, I was a little bit, I didn't understand the situation because, I mean, it's a big football club, and through the years there have been some fantastic players here, and the privilege of having the statues of Colin, myself and Francis Lee is something of a great honour. It's an honour.
It's real.
It's okay, it is really overwhelming. It's a really moving thing to see, it's...
Oh.
It's okay.
You don't have to have a statue, do you?
Some people say, why don't I use photogrammetry or something and take a scan of Ollie, who's actually my assistant, but he's standing in here for Francis Lee. It's something about having somebody standing in front of you and holding that position and being able to get the life in it. And that, to me, is really, really important. And what I'm trying to do is, at the moment, is transposing the positions and enlarging them onto this, and this is the inside. So here is Ollie's hip, and this is his left shoulder here. But you can see that he's supported here because you can't hold this position all the time. You can move now, Ollie, by the way, because it's very tough to do that. And he has to hold himself in that position, but I also have to keep on standing back. I'm trying to do two things: capture Francis Lee's movement, his idiosyncrasies of his own movement. So I've got to imitate them in Ollie. I spent ages on that because it's so important to get the balance, and if the arm's in the wrong place, there's not going to be the balance. So if I get the skeleton right, that armature right, I pretty much know that I can get the body right in clay. So in order not to put a ton of clay on and therefore strain all the supports and everything else, we have to pack it out with, I'm using builder's foam. You spray it in. I use kitchen towel wrapped with masking tape, and I make little sort of bags, and then I squirt it in, and it all comes out. It goes everywhere. You can then put your clay on top of that, and you've got rid of some of the weight. And then this is the early stage of the clay. So literally I've worked on this a day and a half, and I'm trying to get a near naked figure to begin with in order that I can get the structure, the movement and the energy of the figure. And then I will eventually clothe him, putting shorts, the shirt and the boots and everything else on. This is quite a Colin Bell, sort of as though he's slightly suspended in the air under his arms. Very similar to lots of pictures of Colin, and similar to the maquette, the small maquette I made. Eventually this will be a lot smoother, a lot more finished, but I don't want to think about smoothness at the moment. I'm trying to get energy and shape.
So there was a season of, everyone says consolidation, 66, 67, and it was basically steadying the ship. The 67-68 season was one of the closest title races there'd ever been. There was about 5 teams that genuinely could have won that title. City weren't perceived as a title challenging team initially.
Manchester United were then clearly, the big team in town, the big club in town.
67-68, October, it all starts to change with the arrival of Francis Lee. Then at December, there's a game that becomes famous, it's still remembered today, and it was City v Spurs, and it was a snowy Main Road pitch, but it was shown on Match of the Day.
And here at Main Road come Manchester City for today's Match of the Day against Tottenham Hotspur. Manchester City 3rd in the First Division, Tottenham Hotspur 5th. And the ground frozen solid, snow fell this morning.
In those days, every time we went on the pitch, it was a challenge. We wanted to play on it, and Tottenham didn't want to play on it, but they did, because we wanted to play, and it's simple as that. You went on, the conditions weren't particularly good.
You would not play football on that pitch these days. It was absolutely covered in ice.
And there it is, the most exciting team in England today, and a man who's made a great difference to them, number 7, Francis Lee.
City absolutely showed their style. Was incredible that night. City put on this artistic sort of performance. It became known as the ballet on ice.
And away they go. Venables, Greaves, and it's 1-0 for Tottenham. Summerbee, Lee. Summerbee, a great goal! A lovely goal by Summerbee. Nimble on his feet, perfect balance up to Lee, great football. And he's in the post, a goal! Coleman, 3 goals to 1. The judge for Bell, and a goal by number 10, Young. As the whistle goes for the end of the match, a great performance by Manchester City.
With it being such a magnificent performance in such unusual circumstances, I think that drew the attention of football nationwide, certainly, to how good this team was.
So from December, it changes. City are challenging.
Oh no, he's not going to have a shot at goal. Oh, it's a goal by Summerbee.
Pardo to Young. Bell, and the flick was just enough. The goalkeeper flat-footed.
As a player, what were they like in the dressing room? What was their voice?
Belly was very quiet, Franny was Franny, and Mike was his jovial self. They were capable of having your fun, but you had to work and play hard. But when the nitty-gritty came, your training and your matches, everything else went through the window, and it was just trying to get that result at the end of the day.
The training was unbelievably hard. We had international runners, trainers on the track, one for distance running, one for track work, plus weights on a Wednesday afternoon, and apart from being good footballers, because we had some very, very good footballers in the team, we were very fit and very strong.
You know, there were some good runners in the side then, like good athletes. But, you know, sort of on the last 440, which was real hard work, the last one, Colin Bell would be up there just sort of talking to everybody at the front of the line, and it was so easy for him, you know.
They were so helpful to not just me, but for players like Tommy Booth, Ian Bowyer, young lads coming into the team.
Well, the whole team that we had, they supported everybody. You know, if everybody was having a difficult time, the rest of the team helped support you and give you that little bit of confidence.
So the last week or so of the season was really dramatic. City had a number of major games. So you had to play Tottenham, I think it was, and then Newcastle on the last day of the season. Joe Mercer said something like, to win the title would be like climbing K2 and Everest in the same week.
I've got 3 brothers and they're all Manchester United fans. So I remember that day it being quite tense at home, and I wasn't particularly sure why. And of course it all turned out because Manchester United were playing to win the First Division on the last day of the season, and also Manchester City were.
And here at Old Trafford, Manchester, this is the scene of the action this afternoon.
I don't think they were expecting to win it that day. I think they went away to Newcastle. I don't think there was sort of that many sort of cameras following them up there. They weren't the favourites on the day.
City were convinced we were going to win, obviously. And on that final day of the season, it was one of these dramatic games, goals here, goals there. And so it became this great ping-pong of the match.
And there's the whistle to Bell in the Newcastle penalty area now, to Doyle. And there it is, there's the first goal. Mike Summerbee has scored. A magnificent goal there. And there is the equaliser from Jackie Sinclair. What a shot.
City were never behind, but City were 1-up, 1-all, 2-1, 2-all.
But Mike Summerbee always had this view that if they scored 2, City would score 3. If they scored 3, City would score 4. If they scored 10, City would score 11. That's how it was going to be. And in the end, that's how it was. It wasn't 11, but that's how it was.
And then 4-2 killed it.
Summerbee lying in an offside position. To Bell. Well cut in that. And this must be it. There it is. Neil Young has scored. Neil Young has scored the second. Bell. What can he do? There's Lee. There's Lee. He's not offside. He's not offside. Lee has scored. Lee has scored the fourth. This must surely be it. I don't think there's... George Heslop can hardly bear to look. There's the 4th goal. Brian Robson, he's got it, and he's crossed it. It's a great chance, and there is a goal. There is the goal for Wyn Davies. I'm sure they can hardly stand the tension. I know I can't. And there it is. Manchester City are the champions of the First Division. They've defeated Newcastle by 4 goals to 3. And now from St James's Park until next season, it's goodbye.
You know, that's a phenomenal effort. I mean, really, to go away to win a league title, scoring 7 goals in your last 2 games.
There's a great image from that game, which is Francis Lee, after he'd scored one of the goals, arms aloft, stood, fans behind him, and that sort of sums up the mood of the day, really.
But then it was just a matter of trying to get out of the ground alive. My feet probably never touched the floor till I got outside the ground. My memories are like clinging to my granddad. And hoping we got, and then breathing when you got out.
To come and win the Second Division Championship, and then in 67, 68 go on and win the Football League, that was the moment that they thought that not only them, but City had arrived. And to beat Manchester United to the title on the last day of the season, we probably thought that would never happen again. How wrong we were.
And I think that just whetted our appetite to get wired in and win something else as well.
'68-69 season, a lot was expected of City, and we just didn't get the consistency of the league. Tony Buck was injured. So the club wasn't in the right shape when that sort of season started, 68-69.
It was a hard season, that particular season, because we won the championship the year before. That particular season, every game was like a cup tie. All the teams that we played came out and wanted to beat us because we were league champions. And we didn't know what was happening until the season was halfway over, and it was a hard season.
Eastham, Marsh, it's in the goal!
It quickly became apparent that the way City were going to succeed would be in one of the cups. The FA Cup was the one. The famous sort of red and black stripes was introduced that season, and fans were against that at first. But quickly, because of the way the season went with the FA Cup, things changed. By this time, all three, Bell, Lee, Summerbee, were perceived as giants of the club.
You can't really describe their input in an individual way, because their input brought it to the team, and the team was the most important thing in everybody's eyes.
All three were contributing, all three were sort of settled in their roles, and all three could change a game.
Now Lee to Bell to Summerbee to Lee. Oh! That was football perfection.
The FA Cup was not easy because they were playing, you know, like Everton in the semi-final. They were playing teams that had been very successful in the years prior to this. But City won through and got to that cup final.
3 minutes to go, no score. Young with the corner for City. And there goes Doyle, Summerbee there, and there's Booth, number 5, and it's a goal. City have scored 3 minutes from the end.
Playing an FA Cup final is something very, very special for every footballer. In those days, you came out behind the goal and walked across to the pitch, you know, a long distance. And the tunnel was like that, so you didn't actually see the surface of the pitch till you actually got on the level. So it was the excitement of playing there.
Well, it's something I remember about 3 years ago. I came to watch Everton and Sheffield Wednesday, and I was in Bolton then. I came with a friend and I said to him, I give a year's wages to play in the cup finals. Go out on the field today, you know, it's come true.
So here in beautiful downtown Wembley, we're all set for the FA Cup final. 100,000 people, £128,000 receipts, a record for the FA Cup.
Traditionally, the FA Cup used to be perceived as a big showpiece game.
It was the only thing that was televised, really. It was something that everybody got together to sort of watch, and that was the special thing that everybody wanted to win.
We went out believing that we could beat anybody. Doesn't matter who we turned out against. The team talks were very, very limited. It was just a couple of free kicks and get out and play. You're better than the side you're playing, score more goals than them, and that was it.
Trouble then, and it's Lee now for Manchester City. Ready by Summerbee. Coleman! Oh! Including Clark. Here's Clark, number 10, and Glover breaks. He's created space, a great move!
I'm sure Mike Summerbee will talk about his role in the goal, and it was an important goal, and Mike Summerbee got the ball to Neil Young, and Neil Young scored the goal.
Summerbee moved inside. It's Woolett with him. Summerbee back to Young. It's there! Scored by Young. Made by Summerbee. 23 minutes gone. And notice the persistence of number 7, Summerbee.
So in that 68-69 season, unfortunately the European Cup didn't go the way it should have gone, and the League Cup didn't go the way City wanted it. The League didn't, but the FA Cup did, and the FA Cup was bigger and better.
And it's all over! A great performance! Like Summerbee, who made that goal. He made the goal that made the cup possible.
You win the League one year, the FA Cup the next. Few teams do that. Nowadays, we win trebles, quadruples if you like. But back then, teams had rarely won the league one year and the FA Cup the next. Success didn't follow easily. Occasionally you'd keep a consistency, but not often. And City did it.
And Anthony and the crowd celebrating as much as the players will be. This was a great cup final.
Hi, Ollie.
Hello.
You okay?
Good, thanks, and you?
Yeah. Wow.
So if you imagine that you're down here, you can get a real feel of the scale.
Yeah.
You know, your head's going to be sort of this sort of height. They're charging forward.
It was just incredible. That first time when we walked into the studio, when it just took our breaths away. It was just the size and the scale of the players. It was just incredible.
So when I first went to the Etihad, the scale of the stands and the building is enormous. So you need something quite big, and it needed something raised up so people could see it above crowds arriving. And so I went for life and a half. I think that is big enough. They could have perhaps been bigger, but they might have overtaken the entrance. I think they'll work really well.
All of the players are slightly over life size. They're Amazonian. They are, if you like, over heroic. They're the heroic proportion. So Michelangelo's David, which you can see in Florence, is a sculpture which is probably 3 times the height of a human being. And that's what gives that sculpture the sense of heroism. So similarly, they look at these players as images of greatness. So it's not just about the technique, but it's also about the proportion.
I mean, the thing about sculpture is that it changes. Also, the different light you have on it. When sculpture works really well, it has a living quality that it does change quite a lot. I will work on them more, but I don't want to work too much on the textures, because I quite like the textures in bronze. It'll really sing. If you make it smooth completely, it'll lose it.
Right at the start of the season, 1969-70, Francis Lee said to players, when we were on the train, I think, going into London, and we caught a glimpse of Wembley in the distance, Franny Lee said to the players, "Look, lads, there's Wembley. We're going to be there this year. Not only that, we're going to win the Grand Slam. No team's ever done this. We're going to win the Grand Slam. We're going to win every trophy possible." Now, we know how difficult that is. But that was the mood. The ambition of the club was, we're going to win everything. Now, of course, we didn't. But what that ambition did do was take them to the League Cup final and the Cup Winners' Cup final. And the League Cup, this was the first season when all 92 league clubs had competed in the League Cup. And City did progress. That year they beat Manchester United in the semi-final in style.
And now Lee, good control by Lee. Was it a penalty or wasn't it? It's a penalty! Can he now give City this lead to take to the second leg? He has 2-1!
The League Cup final itself was often described as Francis Lee's greatest City game. He didn't score in the final, but Francis Lee's contribution in that final was huge.
And here's another high one to look for Astle, going in!
And it was his never say die, bustling attitude that really sort of tore into West Brom, and it again changed some perceptions.
Summerbee to flick it on in spite of the pain. And it's there! Big pleasure! For Manchester City! Leading well to get it over. Bell flicking it on.
That's one of the finest games he's ever played. I mean, Malcolm will reiterate what I say, and most of the lads, that was the best game he's ever played. I think I've ever seen him play and been involved with him. He was outstanding that day.
That's what they waited for at Main Road.
Alf Ramsey, the England manager, watches that game, sees how great Francis Lee is, and the sort of media of the day are saying he's got to be an absolute cert for the World Cup. And Colin Bell has to be World Cup, has to be. And that's what the League Cup sort of did, if you like. That cemented that view that these players are England players, that these players should be at the World Cup.
England 4 being held up front. Charlton, ball return, couldn't get out of it. Bell coming in, a goal! By Colin Bell, out of nothing.
We win that game, Francis Lee's greatest game, and it sets City up for this double. Back in 1969, there were two major European trophies. There was the European Cup, obviously, for the league champions, and it was only the league champions. There was the European Cup Winners' Cup, and that was for the cup winners from each nation. Malcolm Allison had said in 1968, and he got ridiculed for this, City would scare Europe to death. And he was right. City made the European Cup Winners' Cup their own. Every time there was a game, they were perceived as being hugely talented.
Francis Lee, Oakes diagonally forward to his left, and he finds him. Mistake by Fickle, this is Doyle, just the start that City wanted.
They thrashed Schalke, who Schalke, even today, are a major club, but Schalke were like Germany's #1 at the time. That's how they were perceived. All the way through, City were something else. And again, you know, Bell, Lee, Summerbee contribute all the way through that.
5 minutes of the second half gone. City 3 up, 3-1 on aggregate. This is Doyle, Lee to his left. And Lee going straight in. Enigma for sure, never saw that.
The great German manager Helmut Schön, he saw us absolutely annihilate Schalke 04 in Germany and at Main Road. And he said that's one of the best British sides I've ever seen. He said they're unbelievable. And that's how good City were then, you know.
This wasn't the norm for English clubs to play in a European final. This was the exception, and City were there in 1970. It was in Vienna. Lots of City fans made it. It was against a Polish team, Gornik.
Unfortunately, Mike didn't play because he damaged his leg in the semi-final, I think.
But that doesn't lessen his contribution to that run.
Paul Schiller, the Austrian referee, leads out the two teams for this Cup Winners' Cup final. On the right, Tony Booker, Manchester City. On the left, Oslislo, the skipper of Gornik.
The match was it was played in torrential rain, but it was a good game and it was a fast game, and the Polish team were a very good team as well.
Lee on the near post, Young on the far. Lee, what a player, and what a good reflex save by Koska.
Franny again scored a penalty. Belly was absolutely superb, and in the conditions we played in, what a great team performance that was.
Lee trying to tee himself up. Good save by Koska. Young, his fourth goal in the competition, but made by Francis Lee without a doubt. Young is clear. Costa coming out. Penalty, it must be. Schiller coming up, the referee, and it is. Francis Lee to take the penalty. The rain absolutely teeming down. It was a bit lucky, the power took it through the legs. But it's a free kick that's never going to be taken. The Cup Winners' Cup has gone to Main Road.
We had two major European finals, plus the Super Cup in the last 3 years. We think it's easier than perhaps it is to get to a European final now. In 1970, Liverpool had never won a European trophy. Chelsea hadn't at this stage.
City players now coming up to collect their reward. Tony Book to collect the Cup Winners' Cup. And the old man being lifted up again. It's becoming something of a habit. The European Cup Winners' Cup, which will now join the League Cup on the shelf at Main Road.
So City winning the League Cup and the Cup Winners' Cup in 1970 is regarded as the first time any English team has won a major European and domestic double. That's hugely significant. City achieved this remarkable double.
You can't suddenly have three players winning things and doing things. It's a team effort. We had some fantastic players.
Alan Oakes, Tommy Boo, Tony Buck,
Mike Doyle, and they came together as a group. Most of those players played almost every game.
You know, they were the outstanding, so-called outstanding players in that team, but there were lots and lots of great players in that team.
And we had a great manager, Joe Mercer. Mercer-Allison was one of the greatest coaches ever. Simple as that.
I wasn't aware that the names of the other players were going to be on that plinth as well, and for me it makes the statue even better.
The last time we met, we showed you the little maquette, and since then the sculptor's been working on the life-size models, and we're at the moment now where he's at a point where he feels comfortable with it, and we want to share it with you. And we wanted to show you this today because the step after this is for them to be going to the foundry to get cast in bronze. So we just want to show you that now, and you can just absorb it and take it in, and then we'll have a chat about it. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, exciting.
How do you feel having seen that?
I think it's very, very good. You know, and they seem to have advanced all three players right, you know.
It is fantastic, that.
It's moving, you know them all, the three of them. Very emotional. You know, his movement, it is Mike, straight away.
That's brilliant, honestly. It is.
Oh.
Don't alter it, no.
Great.
Amazing.
Do you think it's a good likeness too? I think it's better than what I am.
That's good, it is excellent. Yeah, we've been engaged all the time. That really epitomises the football club. It is like an extended family. And I had the comments about the statue, little tweaks here and there. We can't wait to see the finished product.
Well, to have a statue before, you never think in lifetime, you know, when you finish playing football so many years, you've got to build, you know, a statue for the three of you. It's an amazing thing, what the club have done, you know.
My name's Adam Padden. I'm the foundry manager here at Sculpture Castings Limited, working with David Williams-Ellis on the Man City Monument. Currently within the project, David's finished his what we would call a pattern, which is the original version which David has worked on in clay. We've now received the mould here at Sculpture Castings, and our team here have been working hard to make a wax copy out of that mould.
At this stage, I'm working on the wax, and this has been made from a rubber mould, and into it is poured liquid wax. which is done by these guys here in the foundry. And basically what you're doing is this wax will be put into another mold, inside and out, and the wax will be melted out, and you're left with a gap, and the bronze is poured in.
It's a really kind of long-winded process. Our client will bring us a pattern, which we refer to as the positive shape that you start with. You make a mould of it and you've got a negative space there. You then fill that with wax, you're back to being in the positive. That gets dipped into a ceramic slurry, which creates a really hard shell around it, which you're then going to melt that wax away, hence why it's called the lost wax process, leaving you with another negative space of which is ready to receive the liquid hot molten metal, in our case bronze. Back into the positive again, where your team then has got your sculpture ready to start being assembled and put together.
The lost wax technique which David's used is the most classical of all. It was the technique that was used by all the great Renaissance sculptors, and it's a technique which really produces bronzes of the most exquisite quality. So I'm imagining that this piece will be really perfectly finished, beautifully patinated.
These are big, there's no getting around that. A life and a half scale is a big piece of work to undertake. You might be talking about 35, 40 pieces, but that's where the craftsmanship in our team comes in. You join the bronze sections together, but the skillful guys will make those seams disappear using air tools and chisels and the like to make it look like the joins were never there, and you're reproducing with consideration what the artist intended originally. Ultimately, like, the best projects are the ones that go out into the public eye, and you've got fans of a sport here that are going to be the biggest critics. The most important ones for us are the public. Like, they're the ones that are going to walk past it every day and have to live with it in their public spaces. So it's really important for us that we get it right.
Well, bronze statues are, of course, forever. You know, this is a sculpture which will last the test of time. It's a sculpture that will describe the beauty of football, of teamwork, of spirit, a great heroic image for the next generations that come to watch City play.
When a legend leaves, it hurts, it really hurts.
Birmingham defence have done well in the absence of John Roberts. Bell!
Colin Bell, obviously there's the injury.
Royal, nice header. Stewart, space on the right for Colin Bell. He fell over the ball. And Bell has remained down. Doesn't look too good with Colin Bell.
Off I went after about 10 minutes, and I think they won the game 4-0. There was a big improvement after I went off, and that was the start of the end of my career, really.
Colin Bell was preparing to soldier on for a further 3 seasons, trying to overcome crippling injury and rescue the last precious years of a glittering career.
You know, I wasn't born at that time, but my mum had to nurse him for a year or more. He was never bitter about that though, and he wouldn't think back to the injury. He'd just think looking forwards and trying to get fit again and playing again, which obviously he was able to do.
I mean, City was his life. He came from Bury at 19 and never had any desire to go anywhere else. I mean, City was in his blood.
His final years at City, we all wanted Colin Bell, and just being on the pitch. Loads of people will tell you about the Newcastle game. I was there when he came back, and it was emotional. You see your dad crying, and you think, it's a game of football. But that's what it meant.
But he was now 33, The injury and 2 years rehabilitation had taken their toll. As Bell tried to make his way in a new City side, Howie must have yearned for the sunshine days of Lee and Summerbee, Young and Coleman, Doyle and Oates.
He could have played for at least another 5 years at top level, won over 100 England caps, gone on and won some more trophies with City. But rather than thinking of what could have happened, I think he was very proud of what he had achieved.
Summerbee. Here's Bell.
People know absolutely how good Colin was, and at the time he had 48 caps for England, I think, and that was at the time that was our record player to have that number of caps for England.
His England career he was really, really proud of. And the other thing, when he got his MBE, he was absolutely proud of that, so proud of that.
After City, he had his restaurant. Wasn't seen that much, very shy figure. He was never going to appear in Escape to Victory or anything like that. Then he was brought back to City and he did coaching roles and so on. Colin Bell was a major contributor to that 1986 FA Youth Cup success. It gets forgotten a bit today, but that was our only national trophy of the 80s. And then he did get brought back, and at City he continued to be this sort of ambassador figure.
I remember when it was the last game at Main Road, Colin was a guest of honour, and we were leaving, and the bodyguards wanted to take him to his car, and Colin said no. He said, you know, the fans are waiting for me, I'll go myself. He just had so much time for the fans, and I think it was great for Colin. He just loved it.
Colin himself, of course, will tell you he was delighted about the fact that the club named a stand after him. But Colin was a very shy, unassuming person. So that's another good reason for us to have this stand, for us to remember him, because Colin was certainly not one of those who would shout from the rooftops about himself. People will constantly ask the question in years to come, who was Colin Bell? Who was Colin Bell?
When he died, I mean, it was in the middle of COVID. So we didn't get a chance to show what he meant to us.
Sad news to start with. This morning, the former Manchester City and England midfielder Colin Bell has died at the age of 74, widely regarded as one of the finest players of his generation.
It was devastating. It sort of came out of the blue.
Just incredibly sad, almost like like a family member passing away.
My defining memory of that, of course, is that the club straight away put that massive banner up in the East Stand. For every game they watched when we were at home, we could see that. I suppose that was our opportunity to pay homage to him, really.
People appreciate him as a great footballer, but also the great man. So that came across in abundance when we lost him a couple of years ago.
We've just recently seen, haven't we, that without Rodri in our team, we lost 3 games on the run, and he's come back and we're winning everything. That was the impact that Colin had. Colin made that much difference to that team. Around lots of great players, but Colin absolutely had that impact.
Here's Marsh. That's for Bell. Thank you very much, 4-1.
The things that were done by individuals or given to him, or words of support, were incredibly, probably the most important thing to Dad rather than other things.
Like the crown that was put on his head that time when the fan ran on the pitch and put a crown on his head. He would never get rid of that. That's in the Football Museum at the moment.
Part of me remembers the time coming out of the ground where people would come and ask for his autograph, so hopefully that's just a presence of him to them, and a thank you for all the support and kind words and encouragement through his life.
We are at the welding and chasing stage, so in other words, we're putting the sculpture together. So in here you can see the sections that have been cast, and then it's bronze welded together. So these lines will completely disappear.
Should be around, we'd be able to, the steel will be in, they'll all be together, they'll be mainly chased up. My title is a chaser of monumental sculptures. That's what's on my wedding certificate. It literally means to chase the detail back in where you can see where there's a weld, and then you have to make it look back like the sculpture.
It takes a lot of skill. These guys, Matt, who's been working on it, he's done it for years, and it takes a lot of skill to get this, and also to translate what is my work, where the joins are. So when I come to look at it eventually, I can't see where the joins are, where the welds are. They have the armature, the cruciform armature that comes in to structurally help them.
So now, because it's going in a public place, we've got to make sure that it's got structural steel work running through it, obviously for public safety, which means running wings all the way down, so it's literally a cross-section of metal that actually is welded into the base that's then chemically fixed to the concrete base.
My next big job is actually getting the positioning of them. This is crucial. The essence of the sculpture will be achieved by placing them in the right place.
But it has been a very good cast, so we haven't had any problems really with any of the metal. A fortnight and they should be on the base. Fingers crossed.
They then colour it using patination, using the chemicals, the heat. They go around with a blowtorch, brush on chemicals, and it will be a sort of what they call a sort of penny bronze.
Yeah, we're really pleased where we're at. We're a few days away now from finishing. There's still hours and hours of patination to go on top. Waxing, polishing, more polishing, just getting it really lovely and shiny. And some final assembly on the base. But yeah, no, it's really good, really exciting. Really pleased.
After that, it's then taken on the back of a low loader, driven up the M6 to the Etihad and installed in the middle of the night.
Coming from a footballing family, you know, if you're not good enough, you have to go.
Summerbee. Marsh going right. The good reverse ball upwards. Bell moving into the middle seriously.
You just thought it was going to go on and on forever, because they were playing and winning everything, which was great, but I maybe didn't appreciate it as much as I should.
The time had come when you know, I was never going to be a regular player in the first team, so I ended up going to Burnley, which was fantastic, because a great club. It was just top. I've been very lucky in my life to be able to play for, you know, for 3 different clubs.
He was quite good like that because he had a business, a shirt business he was involved in.
He appeared in the film Escape to Victory. He never talks about that, of course.
But then I think coming back into it was just what he would have wanted.
In the mid-90s, when Francis Lee took over the club, he brings Mike Summerbee back as a sort of ambassadorial figure. And he carries on doing that forevermore. And he's a great ambassador.
How are your knees?
Sorry?
Can you bend? Are you okay bending a little bit or not?
I'm not all day, but I can get down.
Wears his heart on his sleeve, which is absolutely what we want to see as City fans. There is absolutely no doubt at all that Mike loves this club. He's got time for everybody. I love him to bits, to be honest with you.
We love Mike. He's a real part of our family. He was one of Dad's best mates, so he was always part of our life growing up, still is today. Him and Mike used to tell stories all the time. They bent the truth a lot as well, you know, they were extremely funny stories. They always used to talk about their times at City.
He's always got something to say that will either a story from the 70s or whatever, or how football has changed as well.
They're actually going to remake Escape to Victory, so
that's what I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
You was in that, weren't you?
Coming back to Manchester City in itself is something that's very special, City are great at giving the older players an opportunity to come and enjoy the game and also work for them as well. I think they've got a great heart in them. Manchester City's got a fantastic heart in the fact that if you played and then you come back in, then you're welcome back, and they do that. So it's fantastic.
The club are fantastic with its former players in that get them involved on match days, and Mike's part of that. Mike, I'm sure, is part of the process that has helped the club get where we are today in terms of what we deliver, and helping our newer supporters remember that it's not just about since 2008.
I think it's important for clubs to have these people around because they give that extra value to wearing the shirt.
I think it's really important, that Mike Summerbee is that link with the past and is a great ambassador. That's Mike Summerbee.
Do you want me to hold on to this?
Yeah.
Now, some really sad news to bring you because Francis Lee, the former Manchester City and, of course, Manchester City chairman, has passed away at the age of 79. Club legend in every sense, Francis made 330 appearances for City, scoring 148 goals. He won one First Division title.
You've just lost one of the nicest people. An exceptional person, exceptional footballer. He was like the key to the door. He proved a point to everybody how good he was and the goals he scored, and he went on to Derby County and they won the First Division Championship.
He didn't really want to carry on playing because he just started his business, but Derby were very, very sort of persistent with him. And then, yeah, I mean, he went there and won the league again.
Lee, interesting. Very interesting. Oh, look at his face. Just look at his face.
So he had a big influence on the game of football as a footballer and as a person as well.
Bending down the stick more and more often, not surprisingly. Here's Lee, and he's made it.
I think, looking back, he probably set out to win everything he did, but there was probably always a few things where he wasn't satisfied and always wanted to win more or do more. That's how you get to the top of your game, being like that.
But he always had time for people. I mean, even to the last few weeks of his life, he gets fan mail that comes through via the club, and he was sitting down, signing it. That's part of your legacy, but also part of your role that you're fortunate enough to be in that position. You've got to give something back to them.
Francis Lee, as a player, absolute legend.
He was the type of person that regenerated you, gave you the confidence and belief in yourself.
Very confident. He knew he was a good player. He was so boy, he was.
Oh, it's easy playing with Francis as far as I'm concerned. You just give him the ball and let him do the rest.
Francis always seemed to have a smile on his face, but he was a funny character as well, I think, Francis.
He's a very, very positive player. He gets hold of the ball and he goes at people very, very quickly. If things go well for him, he's a world beater.
One of the most difficult men you would have ever met. I mean, an amazing dad, provided everything that he possibly could for his family, and just was always there when you needed him to be.
As an owner of Manchester City Football Club, he was magnificent. And as a person, I have a job to replace him.
It was a great time to be at Manchester City. We had so much fun, there were so many characters, we had so many laughs. You couldn't buy that. It was absolutely a real marvellous part of my life, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
Mike, Colin and Francis, they stayed with the club. And that's something which is very important for us today, it's very important for the next generations, and it's very important for the current crop of great players.
I think it's really important to remember the players that helped us get where we are today, so yeah, it's good that they live on long and we remember what they did for us, so yeah, it's important.
I think it's obviously really important to show a bit of respect to people that have come before you. That's a good moral to have within the club.
Manchester City are a brilliant club at this, of stitching the generations and all the players from all the eras together, and that's a really important process for young fans to understand today.
Kids know everything about every other footballer around the world these days. A lot of our supporters know about them, young supporters know, because they've seen them on FIFA. What they don't know about is the history. So just that focal point of the statue allows them to start asking questions.
Any sort of visual representation gets the youngest child to say, who's that? And I think that's important for the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. People look at that and remember.
Especially in this day and age, we need to know what our history is, whether it's in politics and in football. We need to know our past.
Box of trees that you can open and have a little... Pass the parcel. Pass the parcel. Well, yeah, I totally know. Do it together. Look at this. No, that's the one that's in my tray.
What I was thinking about the children is that actually they're relatively young when Dad's died. Having the statue and going through some of this process now is actually for some of them part of the grieving process.
Number one Fox was injured when he was quite young. I was something kind of written in there. Oh, I know Brian Kidd.
You know Brian Kidd, yeah.
The fact that he will be there in the SAP permanence, I think it is great that they'll be able to see him.
Today we're finally, after a year and a half, we're installing one sculpture of the three players, and they're going to be lifted off the back of this truck, and we're praying that we lift it down and it fits perfectly.
How are you feeling?
I'm sort of quite nervous. 18 months of work is a little bit, the truth is here.
I hope these statues do them justice. I hope that they feel that they're an appropriate representation. And I hope for the Manchester City fans that also when they see them, they get that sense of connectivity and attachment.
Looking at those three like that, it'll make me very happy. What will make me emotional is I'll be thinking about my granddad, who I'm now getting emotional about, just thinking, who took me to City when I was 6 years old, who made me love City. I'll look at that and I'll remember them. And I'll remember a lot of great childhood memories.
The whole thing, really, to me, that people remember Mike and the supporters remember him and the stories people tell me and how he's helped people. And I hope that that's what the people will be saying about Mike, apart from the fact that he was a very good player.
He came from absolutely nothing to achieve all these things. I would hope the statue kind of helps with those things, is for young kids who maybe don't know much about him, is that it's possible to achieve all these things from very little beginnings.
Probably more than anything, want the fans to remember him as a great player, but also as a great man. He came from a working class family and he still very much considered himself to be working class. That will be a statue of a working class man who gave his all to Manchester City, and I'd say that's the same for Mike and Francis as well.
My hopes for the reveal would be that it fits the bill. It fits what people need and want. It's a celebration of the team. It's a celebration of Manchester City's past. It is a celebration of success. It gives a sense of history.
I guarantee Belly and Summerbee would have been playing in this era. They would have been in Pep Guardiola's first team and they would be superstars. They're more than just football players, they represent an era, like a moment in time in Manchester sporting culture.
These statues are ultimately an inspiration of what one can achieve for this club, for this city, for this community. Having these statues as constant, present reminders for generations to come.
It's a great honour, really great honour. To make this statue, the three of us, is something quite amazing.
Oh, very emotional, very proud. Just so sad that he's not here to see it. And it's such an accolade, really.
Being immortalised forever outside the front of the ground it's just pride. That's the only way I can describe it.
He was so graceful. You know, the way he runs with his arm out and his finger pointed, that's very much Colin.
When he played that way. It was the movement, but the personality is what comes through. Yes, Mike.
I think he's done very, very well to catch the features of the person and the personality of the people, which I think he's done.
You can really appreciate each individual player, and then when you look at it collectively, understand the three and how they work together.
This particular sculpture has got such life, it's got such intensity. They're on the move, it's very kinetic, but also very heroic. It's emblematic of a period when, you know, City were playing beautiful football and these three guys were at the top of their game and the beating heart of a great team that won us titles.
They wanted to make sure that everyone knew that it wasn't just them. They were part of this generation of incredible players. We wanted to acknowledge their contribution by having their surnames placed on the plinth as a lasting sort of celebration, really.
I think that location, that entrance, I think is an important message to everyone. Anybody that's coming to the Etihad, this is one of the first things they will see.
It sits really nicely on that side of the stadium, knowing that just around the corner at the other side of the stadium you've got these other wonderful statues of our more modern legends.
I'd just like to say thank you very much all for the fans and staff and the directors of Manchester City Football Club for, you know, going out of their way to put this statue up of three players.
He was always grateful, really, the support that they gave him. Colin would say a big thank you.
And actually, you know, feeling so at home here, it feels as though it's a really natural place to have that memory.
I think deep down he would have been extremely proud about it. I'd love to have seen his reaction to the statue. Yeah, sad we're not going to get that opportunity, but there's no better way to remember him than something like that.
My message to the families would be that weren't they lucky to have three amazing characters and players, and hopefully that carries on to them, and it's been an absolute pleasure discovering about the three of them.
Sculptures like this, they capture something that we all feel: hope, unity, shared success and positivity. And I think this sculpture captures exactly that. Whatever our backgrounds, whatever our professional lives, when we watch City play, The spirit is captured in this sculpture.
When you see that statue, for sure, I think their contribution to Manchester City, which was the base of it, but it's far more than that. This is an important part of the Etihad, an important part of Manchester, I think a part of English history.